Welcome to the General Insurance Corporations of India Limited Q1 FY22 earnings conference call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then zero on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Binay Sada from Christensen Advisory. Thank you, and over to you, sir. Mr. Binay Sada, please go ahead. Please unmute your line from your side, sir. Mr. Sada? Mr. Binay Sada, please unmute your line from your side. Mr. Binay Sada, please unmute your line from your side, sir. We cannot hear you, sir. Mr. Binay Sada,
Yeah,
please.
am I audible?
Yes, now you're audible, sir.
Thanks, Sajan. Good afternoon to all the participants on the call and thanks for joining Q1 FY22 earnings call for General Insurance Corporation of India. Please note that we have mailed out the press release to everyone, and you can also see the results on our website as well as it has been uploaded on the stock exchanges. In case if you have not received the same, you can write to us and we will be happy to send it over to you. Before we proceed with the call, let me remind you that the discussion may contain forward-looking statements that may involve known or unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors. It must be viewed in conjunction with our businesses that would cause future result, performance, or achievement to differ significantly from what is expressed or implied by such forward-looking statements. To take us through the results of this quarter and answer our questions, we have with us the management of GIC represented by Mr. Devesh Srivastava, Chairman and Managing Director, and other top members of the management. We'll be starting the call with a brief overview of the quarter gone past, which will then be followed with a Q&A session. With that said, I'll now hand over the call to Mr. Devesh Srivastava. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Binay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am pleased to announce the financial performance for the quarter ended 30th June 2021. The underwriting performance was impacted on the back of a challenging external environment. However, we are taking necessary measures to bring down the incurred claims ratio and improve our overall profitability. We continue to focus on bringing a combined ratio near 100 and are hopeful that this will be achieved shortly. Some of the key highlights of the financial performance is as under. The gross premium income of the company was rupees 14,289 crores for Q1 FY22 as compared to rupees 15,881 crores for Q1 FY21. The investment income has increased to rupees 1,794 crores in Q1 FY22 as compared to rupees 1,142 crores in Q1 FY21. Incurred claims ratio increased to 104% in Q1 FY22 as compared to 94% in Q1 FY21. The combined ratio in Q1 FY22 increased to 123% versus 112% for Q1 FY21. The adjusted combined ratio, by taking into consideration the policyholder's investment income, works out to 112% for Q1 FY22 as compared to 105% in Q1 FY21. The company recorded loss before tax of rupees 1,166 crores in Q1 FY22 as against loss before tax of rupees 811 crores in Q1 FY21 and loss after tax of rupees 771 crores in Q1 FY22 against a net loss of rupees 557 crores in Q1 FY21. Solvency ratio remained stable at 1.74 as on 30th June 2021. Net worth of the company without fair value change account increased to rupees 21,285 crores on 30/6/2021 as against 19,714 crores as on 30/6/2020. net worth of the company, including fair value change account, increased to rupees 50,673 crores on 30/6/2021 as compared to rupees 39,071 crores on 30/6/2020. On the premium breakup, domestic premium for Q1 FY22 is rupees 10,435 crores and the international book is rupees 3,854 crores. The percentage split is domestic 73 and international 27%. So there is a degrowth in the domestic premium by around 12%, while the international book has decreased by 3%. It has been our constant endeavor to bring down the combined ratio and better our overall performance. We remain optimistic of achieving this going forward on the back of improving external environment. Having given the highlights, now we will open the floor for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Sanket Godha from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Sir, if we exclude COVID losses, both in life and health insurance segment, then what is the likely loss ratio we would have reported compared to 104.8? So in basic simple terms, I just wanted to get a understanding of how much was COVID-related deterioration in the loss ratio or combined ratio in the current quarter. If you can say, quantify the number, absolute score number, it will be useful, sir.
Sanket, quantification in precise terms would be difficult, but what we can tell you is that both the health and life sector, the two sectors you speak about, have had quite an effect of COVID. Also, the fact that being prudent reinsurers, we have reserved very conservatively. So health, as we have said always, is largely a retail book, doesn't require too much of reinsurance. So much of our health book that comes to us or is in the books of GIC is from the obligatory sessions that we get from our domestic market, where we have seen quite a bit of surge from the direct insurance companies in health losses. But on the other hand, and in the same breath, I would also want to add that you would have also noticed that health as a portfolio has grown considerably. Now, this is a good sign for us because people have started valuing that insurance as a purchase, which is not really the Indian mindset. But COVID has done this for them, and that is why health as a portfolio will stabilize as we see going forward on the back of all the vaccination drive that is going forward. Coming to the life sector, again, something that has been affected. We have with us our appointed actuary on life, Mr. Sharma. Sir, can you come in here, please? Mr. Vikas Sharma? No worries, Sanket.
Sharma, your line is in talk mode. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Sorry, I was just working out. Yes, on the life side, the performance has definitely been impacted by COVID-19. We have also provided for additional mortality reserves to take down the impact of the second wave, where we expect most of the death claims to be concentrated in April, May, June. Because of the late reporting, some of the claims do not get reported to us on that date. So we have provided for it very prudently in our financials. So that has definitely led to the loss ratios being on the higher side. And of course, in the short run, there will be some stress that is expected because the impact of COVID-19 will be felt most severely in the first quarter, which we have seen. In the later quarters, I expect it to be slightly lesser than this, but the primary reason is the debt claims obviously that we receive, plus the extra provisions that we have created to take into account some of the strain that we expected is going to be reported in the future.
Sir, in the financials, you have mentioned that we had made a provisioning of 536 crores additional IBNR provisioning. So this 536 crores, can I safely assume it is largely towards life insurance, or there is a part of health insurance also in this 536 crores?
This 536 is not life. That would be the non-life segment. So I wouldn't be able to comment on it. Life, the provision is separate. I mean, it works very differently from the non-life sector in terms of its overall working. The approximate provision, you can say, is somewhere around 300 crores, which is already built into our IBNR calculations. So that is will be over and above what is written for non-life.
But sir, can you tell us how much amount of COVID claims you have settled till date on life death claims? And second related question to this is that given you have experienced a bad mortality experience, are you going to see an hardening in the rate in a meaningful manner to recoup the losses what we have experienced right now?
Okay. So in terms of the amount of claims that have been reported where the cause of death is specifically COVID, I think the approximate number till date is 140 crores. That is what the number is. But what happens, we also receive a lot of death claims. I mean, there has been a general increase in trend in death claims that we have seen in India. Unfortunately, if the cause of death is something else, which is fever or let's say respiratory problems, it could be induced due to COVID, but we cannot make that conclusion. So the COVID death claim specifically is somewhere around 140 crores till date. Sorry, what was your second question?
So second question was that given your experience in little high on mortality compared to what you have assumed whenever you have signed the contract, so do we see that you guys will harden the rate for the sector so the profitability of the life might recoup the losses what you have experienced right now?
Okay. So, yes, the rates have already been hardened in lines of business where there is an immediate possibility to harden the rates, which would be, let's say, group 1 year renewable term business, group facultative 1 year term, because as soon as the scheme comes up for renewal, you have the flexibility to change the rate. So that is already being done. On the individual side, where life insurance contracts are mostly for 15-20 years and the rates are locked in for business which have already sold, rates can be changed for future new business, which is a continuous process, and based on our continuous monitoring of the experience, we keep on changing it. But there is obviously a slight difference between long-term contracts and short-term contracts.
Yeah, I understand that, sir. So in detail business, how much is the rate hike you have taken, sir?
So it varies from case to case, but on blended basis the rates have gone up by let's say I'll give a very rough number to it because it does vary based on the profile of the group and the size of the group, but on average you can say it has definitely gone up by 4 to 5 times on average. That is what we are seeing right now.
You mean to say 400 times?
Yeah. Yes. That has also, yes. There are cases in which it is lower than this. There are cases in which it is lower than this. But this is more facultative business, so where we have freedom to set rates. So the rates have increased. But again, like I said, there is flexibility on both the cedent and the reinsurer side to place business with each other. I mean, there is complete freedom. These are not guaranteed.
But this is like a one-time event, or you will sustain itself for a longer period of time?
These rates would be applicable for 1 year in case the cedent decides to place the business with us. These rates would be applicable for 1 year because we are talking about 1 year renewable group term business.
Got it. Okay, sir. Sir, my second question was largely because of the slowdown in the crop business, because just wanted to understand the dynamics. Last year's slowdown was understandable because we have tightened the treaties. In the current year also, the crop insurance business almost declined almost by 44% or 45%. Around 23%, 24. So just wanted to understand the reason around it, why crop is still seeing a declining trend, and also wanted to understand why motor has seen such a sharp jump. Any specific reason around it?
Devesh sir, if you would like to
appropriate. Sure, Vikasji, I'll take it up.
Yeah.
Sanket, not really. See, the agri portfolio has largely stabilized. The fact that last year the domestic treaties were on a 3-year basis has largely settled what is the capacity to be given and the premiums that are to come in.
Right, sir.
So this is more, it could be appearing in figures like that, but largely the portfolio is pretty stable now. We continue to give capacity to the market and for the scheme, definitely.
So basically we will end up from the full year point of view, same amount of business probably what we did it last year. That's the way we should look at it, sir.
Sanket, say that again, please.
I was asking, sir, from full year point of view, how much business we have done in crop, given it's a 3-year contract, we might end up doing a similar amount of business in FY22 from a full year point of view, given it's a quarterly anomaly. From full year point of view, still will end up with the same amount of business?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And sir, on motor, any reason why it has increased so much?
Sanket, motor is also, as I said, largely for us, it comes in from the domestic portfolio because it is pretty much retail. But to have a dependence only on the domestic is not the correct thing. We wanted a diversified basket. So we have tried to also explore the foreign markets. So a little amount of good premium has come in from the foreign business also that we write. So that is the difference that you would also be observing. Over and above, of course, since the business itself in India has also grown, that is also contributing to it. So we have a bit of domestic and some of more for foreign book.
Okay, got it. I have a couple of more questions, but I can come back in queue if it is, or otherwise I can ask a couple of more questions.
Okay.
Should I go ahead, sir?
Okay, Sanket, go on. Unless let me ask Binay. Binay, is there somebody else in queue? Then the Sanket can come back in for a second round of questions.
This is the operator, so we have one participant waiting in the question queue.
So Sanket, I think it would be in
okay, sure.
That if you could come back, please.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, you may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Vikas Agarwal from AAA Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. The first question was actually on the fire line of business. So it's like very difficult to understand that despite taking an 8 to 9% price hike that we had done last year, still the combined ratios look very high, right? Even in a quarter like Q1, our domestic combined ratio for fire was around 130%.
तुम्ही ज्या व्यक्तीशी बोलत आहात त्याने तुमच्या कॉलला होल्डवर ठेवला आहे. कृपया लाइन.
Please go ahead. I have muted the line.
Yeah. So just trying to understand why the combined ratios in fire continue to be consistently high since the last couple of years, despite all the corrective actions that we've taken both on the domestic and the international side. So just some color on that would be helpful.
See, Vikas, we have also been talking always about the way we brought the market back into business by hiking the rates, or rather specifying that IIB rates as given by the regulator is what is to be followed by every cedant. So that obviously took time to come in and has been shown in the other later quarters, and the fire portfolio largely stabilized. The hike that you see currently in the combined the high combined that you see is currently because we have reserved very prudently for the 2 cyclones that hit the eastern and the western coast. So we have provided amply for that. We have Mr. Satish Bhatt, who is our appointed actually for non-life. He can, I request him to throw some more light on the reserving we have done in the fire portfolio. So if you can come in, please.
Sir, thank you, sir. Sir, mainly the two cyclones we had to provide in this quarter, that is the Yaas and the Taukte. So that itself is amounting to about 550 odd crores, and over a premium base being small in the first quarter, that is why the loss ratio for this quarter are seen higher.
Right, sir. So then on a full year basis, what is the kind of combined ratio that we expect in fire?
See, Vikas, we have taken a lot of steps in the fire portfolio, which to us has stabilized largely. Last year, if you see, the results were quite heartwarming on the back of the IIB rates that we had prescribed. So if this year is a benign one, we expect to remain pretty stable in our fire portfolio. And we would look at growing it because now with the economy also picking up steam, there will be many opportunities for reinsurers which we intend to harness most definitely and get good business onto our fire portfolio. So the growth of the economy will definitely help us a great deal in that.
No, absolutely, I agree with that. And second, your opinion, the only point is, are we pricing this risk correctly in your opinion? Because this is something that, we've been investors with you for the last 3 or 4 years, and this has been recurring, right? Every time, obviously, there are untoward events that have been happening, and appreciate that. But, the combined ratios remain consistently high. So I'm just trying to understand that, are we taking a holistic view on pricing? And if it is not priced right, is it better to leave that business? Or part of that business which is making losses for us?
Because it doesn't function like that. You see, the meat of reinsurance is the property of the fire portfolio, as we call it. So, if you see, last year the combined was at around 135 for the fire, which has come down to 120 now, or 121 for this quarter. Obviously, on a year-to-year basis, this is, the IIB rates which were introduced in January, February last year, due to the lag effect, took time coming onto our books. In the first quarter of last year, they were not fully reflected. The decrease in combined you see is now the IIB rates settling in. The increase is also due to the very prudent reserving we have done. Now, when you look at our fire portfolio, that is one portfolio because capacity is limited, and globally you have seen so many events taking place that due to shortage of capacity, rates have been hiked up. And with the growing economy, this is definitely going to come to our, to become good in our books. And we are very happy at the way and the initiatives that we have taken to stabilize the fire portfolio and grow it with a bottom line focus. So that endeavor is continuing, and we are very, very gung-ho on that.
Understood. Okay, thanks. That's helpful. My second question was on the agri line of business. So there were some news reports recently wherein a few states were said to be opting out of that crop insurance scheme that is being run currently. So could you just elaborate on that?
Because there are certain states, because they thought that the PMFBY model is not really suiting them, and these were the states that were perennially having very high claims ratio. So they have opted out for something different in their own setup, in which there is a certain band in which the insurers come in and pay, and then there is a premium refund if they do not achieve that, or if the same ratio is below that. So those are states. Vikas, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Please.
So those are the states which is something that even we were very circumspect about, and we continue to be like that. So currently, GIC is not supporting these in a very big way, apart from a small, a toe in the water sort of a thing to watch how it goes. But we are examining it. Currently, the PMFBY has stabilized for us. We are very happy the way the agri portfolio spanned out, because it was on a very set strategy that we set for ourselves, and that strategy has paid us huge amounts of dividends. So good that the way it's progressing, but we are very keenly watching the states and the way they are coming up with these new schemes, and we will definitely enter these schemes if it makes sense to us and take it forward from there.
Understood, sir. So, and one more question was on the 100% combined ratio target that we set for ourselves. So, any indicative timeline of when we're targeting that, and more importantly, what is the mix of business that you're looking at going ahead to get to this 100% number?
Because I think last year we had said sometime that we need about but this was before the COVID onset, or maybe COVID was just a blip on the radar that time. We had set for ourselves a goal of about 6 to 8 quarters. We are largely on track there. Maybe it will get pushed by a quarter or two, but that is more because of COVID and the impediments it has proved, because life itself has become a challenge. So that is it. But all of us in GIC are pretty much working towards the bottom line approach and working to get a combined as close to 100. We have set for ourselves our internal guidelines. We have also set for ourselves where we want to be quarter on quarter. And we are following that with dogged determination.
Understood, sir. That's great. And also, if you could guide on any product mix differences that we see to get us to this 100%?
See, Vikas, largely a reinsurer's book, at least for GIC especially, it is the 4 biggies are fire, agri, motor and health. This is about 80% plus of our book. So this portfolio mix is going to continue. Additionally, we are also going to look at our foreign and domestic divide, which is something that we are working on, because rates internationally have also gone up, and an international portfolio for an international reinsurer like us, it gives us a very healthy balance. We are working on that also, and both the places a cautious approach, but an approach to balance out our book while looking at the bottom line is what is being worked on and implemented.
Understood, sir. So my final question would be on the investment strategy, considering the prevailing scenario and the expectation that low interest rates might be a reality for some point in time. How are we adjusting our investing strategy accordingly? Because if our combined ratio is 100, the real money that we'll make is of the investment book or the float, right?
Because your voice faded out for a bit in the initial point. What was it, your earlier point? Just state that again, please.
My point was that if the interest rate scenario continues to remain where it is, a low interest rate scenario, then how are we adjusting our investing strategy? Because if our combined ratio is 100, then the money we'll be making will be of investment income, right?
Because yes, the whole idea is to get your combined below 100 so that the investment is the icing on the cake. That is a strategy we are working on. But having said that, investment provides us with a huge amount of opportunities. We have a book that has assiduously been built up over 5 decades. So we have with us our Chief Investment Officer, Mrs. Radhika. Ma'am, can I request you to come in and state a bit about how we are progressing?
Yes, sir. Hello?
Ji, ma'am. Please.
Yes, sir. Definitely, Mr. Vikas, I'm Radhika Ravishekar, the CIO. I would like to say that out of our profit of 1763, nearly 644 crores is on sale of securities. We have a very good book, as our chairman has pointed out. And in the lower interest rate scenarios, we will always be pushing it to those securities which offer a little more yield. So we will have our investments. If you say out of the total investments, nearly 52 is on our sovereign and AAA rated bonds. We are around 72% of that. Of our portfolios in fixed income securities also.
Understood, ma'am. So, if I could just ask, what is the current proportion of debt and equity in our investment book by market value probably, and do you see that changing anytime soon?
Market value, sir, for equity is around 41,000. If it's 12,000 book value, so the market value as at present stands at around 41,000 and not 41,976, and the debt, of course, is around 50,000 and something, and around 51,000. So we definitely have a good mix, sir, of debt and equity.
Right, and you don't see that changing materially going ahead?
No, sir, not very, very materially. We will continue it because we still get a good investment income from the fixed income securities and also from the equity. We take every opportunity for the fall in market, and as well as we come out during excess or overweight positions.
Understood. Okay. Thank you so much, team, and all the best. Looking forward to better results in the times to come.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vikas.
Thank you. Reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 at this time. Participants, to ask a question, you may press star and 1. The next question is a follow-up question from the line of Sanket Godha from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity again. Sir, I have just two questions. One is on we are hearing a lot about global wildfires and floods this time. Your take on likely impact of it on the overseas book? We know that we are in a good cycle of rate hardening in international book, but this rate hardening what we have seen over the last year or so would be good enough for any of these kind of claims which can come and hit us. I mean, or any initial comments you have on these events which are very frequently happening at a global level.
Sanket, surely I'll request Mr. Hitesh Joshi to come in, please. He has been handling.
Yes. This is a very interesting question, Sanket, in terms of the developments of wildfires in the Western US and the flood events in the Western Europe. This definitely impacts materially the assessment of underwriters in terms of what was expected. It was around between 15 and 17 that whatever were the expectations of the reinsurance and insurance community which underwent a change. So this recent events of US wildfire adds more weightage to the sustained increased frequency in the forthcoming future. The floods in Europe also materially would impact the underwriters' assessment and the market's perception of the climate change. Together with this, there is a record flood event in China. So all these events are definitely posing a challenge for the reinsurance community in general, which has seen pressure on the return to investors during the last 5 years. Since these figures are yet to come in, how will it play out? I think we need to wait for a quarter. I think as the figures crystallize, maybe towards the mid-November or end November, when the reinsurance and insurance community will be formalizing their strategy for January renewal, I think we will have a better idea as the more data about the exact estimates of these losses to the industry comes in.
Got
it.
Did it help? Yes, sir, I got it. But are we exposed to any of these areas where these events are happening in a big, meaningful way, sir, which can deteriorate substantially our international loss ratio?
Since the wildfire events of 15 to 18, we have been extremely careful and we have been avoiding wildfire because wildfire is a risk which is under modeling development. It is not as established as say a flood. It is under kind of development. So we would say we are not materially affected by the wildfire of US. As far as European floods are concerned, again, we need to assess, but impact is less because of our reduced market share during the last 1 year in the European market.
Got it, sir. Okay, got it. Sir, finally, on anything you have heard on revision of our rate hardening? Rating change. Sorry, not rate hardening. Rating change with respect to AM Best. Anything you have heard on it? And second thing is just wanted to understand in international book, even in June repricing cycle, how the rates have. I mean, if you have seen the rate hardening cycle, even in the current environment or not in June cycle. Those are two my questions, sir. Yeah.
Hitesh bhai, can you take up the AM Best, please?
Yes, sir. So we are in dialogue with AM Best, and towards the end of this month or maybe next month, they will come back with the rating advice as to if there is any change or they are maintaining. That will come to know in the next 1 month or so. So dialogue is going on, and we are engaging very actively.
Okay, got it, sir. And when on June,
yes, on the June thing, see, Sanket, for us as reinsurers, you know that almost 90% of our book is treaty and just about 10% is facultative. Now, the treaty season is largely over, 1st January for international and 1st April for the domestic market. That leaves us largely with the facultative book, where, of course, on the back of the international rates prevailing and the truncation of capacity, we are looking at the risks that are coming our way very objectively, with both deductibles and rates being negotiated and given appropriately, so that we have a good book that we had spoken about earlier also.
Got it, sir. Fair point. Yeah, that's it from my side, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is a follow-up question from the line of Vikas Agarwal from AAA Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so one more question that I had was on the pricing discipline in the domestic market. So I know we've been speaking sporadically across different business lines about how pricing is becoming a little more conducive. But can you just elaborate on that a little more versus your experience of 4 or 5 years back, given that a large number of players are now listed and having to report results to investors? Do you see any material ease in terms of, passing on higher prices?
Because, see, pricing, I mentioned earlier also to you that the bulk of our book is fire, agri, motor and health. Now, motor and health, again, as stated earlier, is largely an obligatory book with not much scope for a reinsurer, because these are largely retail and any insurance company will be able to hold it to its book. The fire and property, these are the two sectors. So last year, according to a very set strategy, we worked on the agri portfolio, which has stabilized, has shown the results, and we are very happy, as I said earlier. On the property book, definitely the idea is to go with cedents who are, not mavericks and are not trying to get into a rate cutting mode. So we are looking at the cedents who are going to be with us in long-term partnership, and therefore will be good for dividends, in the sense dividend for them as a company and dividends for us as a company as well, so that both of us earn money and it's a win-win situation. We have Madam Avalika Bhaskar, who is the Director and General Manager. She also heads up the property vertical. Ma'am, can you just come in here?
Ms. Bhaskar, you can please go ahead. Your line is in talk mode. Ms. Bhaskar, please go ahead. Your line is in talk mode, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Can you come back to the question, please? It's regarding property, right? Hello?
Yeah, I just wanted to understand how pricing has moved in property and whether you are seeing an even pass-through of higher prices overall in this.
So this will be answered by the property section?
Yes, Radhika ma'am. No, this was intended to be with Madhulika ma'am.
Okay. Right.
Fine, because I think ma'am is having some issues with, but it is largely that, Vikas. So that is how, see, the basis of writing reinsurance businesses, that you have to find your way around. Otherwise, there will never be any dearth of business for us as reinsurers. You see, as the world is progressing, people are realizing more and more the risks associated with that business, which is the raw material that feeds us. So there is never a dearth of business, and going forward, even more so, as people realize more about the risks that are prevalent, that had been escaping their attention. But now, with the global village concept, you are learning about it every day. And you have a CRO in almost every organization, which was not the case earlier. So risk-wise, we are never short. We have a huge amount of raw material that feeds us. The whole idea of having a healthy book is to find your way around, and find your way around profitably, and in building long-term relationship with your cedents as well, because that is how reinsurance business progresses. I mean, if you see the European models, reinsurers who have been on the books of a certain insurance company, they would have been there for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. It's a very stable panel which doesn't change really. That is how the business progresses, because you find your partnerships, exactly what even GIC intends to do going forward. We will be husbanding a capacity to the ones who deserve it, who have been treating it with the respect it deserves, and taking that forward. That is how the strategy of GIC is worked on.
Understood. Thanks. And is there any update on the Lloyd's collaboration and how that has progressed for us?
Because the Lloyd's syndicate that that was the first one that any Asian country was allowed there, and it was really a feather in our cap. It is done exceedingly well. In fact, it has been given a lot of importance by Lloyd's people themselves. It has progressed well. It is doing very well, and we are also having a lot of exchanges of intellectual property that comes with it, because those are something that those these what do you call it? The way you the rating tools that have been developed by them is all available to us. We are making good use of it, and it has been a stable relationship that is progressing very well. We are very happy with the way the syndicate and GIC Bombay are holding hands and moving forward.
Okay, that's great to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Arjun from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. My question is just to get a broad sense on the life insurance segment. So we have been seeing incurred claims of around 1,200 crore last year, and it's almost 1,000 crore this quarter itself. But the overall GWP contribution from this line would be around 300 crores a quarterly run rate. So I just wanted to understand as a strategy whether it will be going ahead, you'll be focusing more on life to make good the losses from this segment by growing this segment better. Will it become around 7 to 10% contribution in overall GWP? That is one question. With that also you have the price hikes of 4 to 5x. So will this, if you are going for a price hike, whether there is appetite in the underlying market to absorb this price hike?
Arjun, if you look at the life portfolio globally, with big reinsurers, it forms a sizable part of their portfolio. And why is that? Because life business is a much more stable business. And that is why reinsurers prefer it, because stability is the key for a reinsurer. Exactly in the same manner, GIC also set for itself the life book, and we are doing it slowly but surely. Now, what has happened in this year is a one-in-a-century event. Pandemics like this don't happen every other day. And the life mortality table is a very well-defined thing, because we have so much of data going into it. That is what provides you the stability. So yes, currently life is a small portfolio for us, but we intend to grow it because it will provide stability to the GIC book in the long run. But as our appointed actuary for life also mentioned, that the rates have been going up, looking north, which gives an opportunity for us to recoup these losses, but also build upon the book and get it the required diversification. And also the fact that life is also, as I spoke about health earlier, life has also become something that people are now looking at with a great deal of interest. The life insurance business is growing, and that is a good sign for us. For some more detail, Vikas sir, can I request you to just give a brief overview of the life book globally and for us in GIC, so that Mr. Arjun can have a better understanding of it?
Mr. Vikas Sharma, your line is in talk mode. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. So yes, if you look at even GIC's financials, the proportion of life insurance business over the past 2-3 years has gradually been increasing, and that is what we would expect going into the future. But one thing also we have to remember is the life reinsurance market in India is slightly smaller than the non-life market. So if you look at the total reinsurance premium that is paid by all life insurers in India combined together, I think that number would work out to somewhere around 4,000 to 4,500 crores. And that market keeps on growing by 15 to 20% every year. So similarly, our share also will always be a proportion to that, and we will not be able to exceed what life insurers taken together pay reinsurance premium. Sorry, what all life insurers pay as reinsurance premium in a year. So the life insurance reinsurance market in India is smaller in size, and that is why the growth will also be in proportion to that.
Okay. Got it, sir. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I now hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Hitesh, can I request you?
Thank you, sir. As the CFD sir mentioned that we have embarked on the journey of underwriting profitability and achieve the combined ratio of below 100 over next 6 to 8 quarters. Which journey, of course, is interrupted by the COVID pandemic. But we have embarked and we will continue and we are committed. The global events during last 3-4 years, particularly even last 2 years, have also impacted our journey in a very major way. Particularly just a while back, we talked about the wildfires in US, the floods in China this year, just now, the last year, the European floods. So these are the blips, or maybe the ride is a bit bumpy. We are actively monitoring the competitive dynamics in the domestic market, particularly the health and motor. Also the global developments in the context of pandemic and climate change. And we are considering all these factors and recalibrating our response on a continual basis. And we remain optimistic and fairly confident about achieving our journey in the timeline indicated by the CMD, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of General Insurance Corporation of India Limited, that concludes this conference.